Hi everyone, this is Movie Tales, your fast-track pass to the best stories in cinema. Today's story, Lolita. Enjoy watching. Professor Humbert is driving down a quiet country road. The car swerves from side to side. His face is covered in blood. On the back seat lies a blood-stained pistol, and in his hand he grips a simple hairpin. That hairpin belongs to a girl he fell desperately in love with. A love so consuming that it sent his entire life spiraling out of control. This forbidden obsession begins in Humbert's early years. At 14, he experienced his first love, only to lose her to death, a loss that scarred him for life. Decades later, when he comes to New England, Humbert convinces himself that he has finally discovered a way to heal that old wound. Humbert rents a room in the home of a widow named Charlotte Hayes, partly because his own place burned down, and partly because she has a young daughter, Lolita. The moment he sees her, he is stunned. He almost refuses to stay, until one brief image stops him. Lolita laughing beneath the spray of a garden sprinkler. In that instant, the memory of his first love resurfaces. Humbert starts filling his notebook with private thoughts about Lolita and her mother. He writes without restraint, hiding nothing. Charlotte barely interests him. Most of the time, she only annoys him with her loud voice and constant fights with her daughter. Lolita, on the other hand, completely captivates him. She senses his attention and deliberately encourages it, unaware or unconcerned that for her it is nothing more than a game. Humbert watches Lolita constantly, as she brushes her teeth, as she slips out of bed at night to grab a sweet snack. He observes her playful mischief in the yard, always looking for excuses to spend a little more time close to her. All the while, he remains blind to one obvious truth, is Charlotte has fallen in love with him. It is Lolita who casually points it out, when she asks Humbert to convince her mother to take them to the lake. During the trip, Charlotte casually mentions that Lolita will soon be sent away, first to summer camp, then to a girls' boarding school. The news hits Humbert hard, yet before Lolita leaves, she gives him a moment he will never forget. Catching him watching her, she suddenly runs into his bedroom, throws herself onto him, and kisses him. As soon as Lolita and her mother leave, Humbert drifts into the girl's empty bedroom. He becomes absorbed in her clothes, lost in his obsession. That's where Charlotte's maid finds him. She hands him a letter from her employer. In it, Charlotte begs Humbert to leave the house. She confesses that she is desperately in love with him, unless he is willing to stay and return her feelings. Humbert stays and soon marries Charlotte. On the surface, he becomes a perfect husband, but behind the marriage and the ring, he avoids intimacy at all costs. He experiments with sleeping pills, once leaving Charlotte helpless for hours. Yet she still wakes and demands her marital rights, and more. Worn down by these so-called marital duties, Humbert goes to a doctor and asks for powerful sleeping pills. When he returns home, he finds Charlotte in tears. She has read the notes he kept about Lolita, and about herself. Realizing who she has let into her life, Charlotte wants him gone. As Humbert tries to calm her, she begins writing a letter to Lolita. Humbert steps away briefly to pour them both a glass of scotch. Then the phone rings. A stranger's voice tells him that his wife is dead. Humbert refuses to believe it, until he realizes Charlotte is gone. She ran out to mail the letters and was struck by a car in the street. The driver had no time to react. Humbert is left in shock. He gathers Charlotte's letters and burns them in the fireplace. Then he drives to the summer camp to collect Lolita. Along the way, he books a hotel room for two, and tells Lolita that her mother is ill. When Humbert brings Lolita to the hotel, she meets a playwright named Claire Quilty. The older man shows an unsettling interest in her carefree nature. Humbert is told that no room with two beds is available, and that they must share one. He does not object. After dinner, Humbert steps out onto the terrace. There, a drunken Quilty strikes up a conversation and makes crude remarks, hinting that he understands far more about Humbert's intentions than he should. When Humbert returns to the room, Lolita is already asleep. In the morning, Lolita takes the initiative into her own hands. The girl makes it clear that this is not her first time. On the drive back, Lolita wants to call her mother, and Humbert is forced to tell her the truth. Little Lolita cries all night after learning her mother has died, but she has no one left except Professor Humbert, so she quickly forgives him for hiding Charlotte's death from her. Humbert takes Lolita away from her hometown. They travel across the country, stop in roadside motels, and spend their days carelessly. Lolita behaves like a typical child. Humbert decides to place Lolita in school, and at first everything goes well. But then he begins to feel that the girl is hiding something from him. She asks for more pocket money and manipulates him into allowing her to perform in a school play. The play is written by the same Quilty they met at the hotel. Humbert is later told that Lolita has been skipping classes. When he confronts her, she offers a convincing excuse, one her friend backs up. Still, Humbert becomes convinced that Lolita is planning to run away. He believes she's been saving her allowance for that very reason. An argument follows, and Lolita storms off. Humbert searches for her through heavy rain and eventually finds her in a cafe, talking on the phone. He brings her back, but Lolita says she wants to leave again, this time on her own terms. They set off once more. Along the road, Humbert begins to sense that someone is following them. The stranger makes little effort to stay hidden. At a gas station, Humbert notices Lolita speaking with a man. When he questions her, she dismisses it casually, saying the stranger only asked for directions. They stop at another motel, and Humbert steps out to buy food. When he returns, he realizes Lolita has been somewhere without him. Consumed by jealousy, he demands to know who has captured her attention. Lolita only laughs. She knows Humbert is completely under her control. Sometime later, Lolita falls ill and is taken to a hospital. Humbert is sent home. The next day, he's told his daughter is recovering, and that her uncle has taken her away. Enraged, Humbert rushes to the hospital and assaults the doctor, demanding answers, but he refuses to let it end there. He retraces their journey, visiting every motel they stayed in and studying the guest books. One distinctive handwriting appears again and again, under different names. Humbert realizes this is the man who took Lolita. In the end, he accepts the truth. Lolita is gone from his life for good. Humbert returns to his old job. 3 years later, a letter arrives from Lolita. She writes that she is married and expecting a child. Addressing him as Daddy, she asks for a few $100s to help cover debts. She signs the letter with her husband's last name. Humbert decides to go to her. He practices shooting with his revolver, determined to confront the man who took her away. Lolita now lives on the outskirts of town, in a poor neighborhood. When Humbert knocks, the door is opened by a visibly older, pregnant woman. Still, he recognizes the girl he once loved, and remains obsessed. She invites him inside and explains that her husband believes Humbert is her father. Lolita tells Humbert that she only ever loved Quilty, but Quilty cast her aside when she refused to take part in his films involving minors. Humbert gives her $4,000, insisting she keep it no matter what. He asks one final question, whether there is any chance she might return to him. Lolita answers plainly, there is none. As she speaks about Quilty, she accidentally reveals where he lives. Humbert says goodbye and leaves. Driving away, he catches a fleeting glimpse of the Lolita he once knew, briefly reflected in the pregnant young woman she has become. Humbert tracks down Quilty's house and goes upstairs to confront him. Quilty is barely coherent, heavily drugged and struggling to focus. Humbert forces his attention at gunpoint, determined that Quilty understand why he is about to die. As Quilty's mind begins to clear, he tries to grab the weapon, but fails. He then attempts to flee. Humbert fires several shots, stopping him. Quilty crawls into his bed, curled up in fear. It is in that bed that Humbert finishes him off. Bloodied and numb, Humbert drives on. Police lights flash behind him, ordering him to stop, but he barely registers them. The world around him fades into silence. There is only one thought left in his mind: Lolita. The final scene reveals that Humbert died in prison from coronary thrombosis on November 16, 1950. Lolita died in childbirth on Christmas Day, the same year. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe to see the latest videos first.